going to walk through all the steps to get you up and running in Lotro. So if you're someone who's always wanted to play but you don't know where to start, I'm literally going to give you a step-by-step walkthrough that you can do with me, and then essentially get you into Lotro, make sure you've got everything set up ready to go, and give you a little bit of tips and pointers along the way. I'll essentially be Galadriel, and I will lead you to the light of this game called Lotro. And if you have even more questions, I definitely recommend you check out the 2 playlists I've linked down below. One of them is a step-by-step guide for beginners, and then I also have a tips and tricks playlist for all Lotro players of any type. Doesn't matter where you're at in playing the game, but I definitely recommend that you check that playlist out as well. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. So whether you're just going to grab it from Steam, or if you go to lotro.com, you're going to get to this homepage, and then here we're actually just going to click to play for free if you don't already have an account. If you do have an account, you'll want to do the download the game here, but say you don't have an account, we'll just do play free. And then you essentially could just log in, you'll have a username, password, all that, fill in all that fun stuff, you know. Now the downloading process actually might take you a couple of hours. For me, it honestly takes about an hour and a half for me to get all the game files together. But if you have an older PC, it might take you a few more. Though I will say that once you kind of get to the download process, you're going to be met with the main area launcher. So this is what you're going to see every time that you log into Lotro. This is their launcher, and they always like to prioritize like any updates that have come out. If there's a festival going on, then they'll put that over here. And then down below you see all of this, like, you know, all this talk and fun stuff. And that's where they essentially put in like any updates that they've done, any maintenance that goes on with the game will be here, any sales within the Lotro store, which as you can see here, there's a sale going on. And then, of course, just any community-based things within their Twitch account, their YouTube, Facebook, all of that jazz as well. Then on the top here, you have like your community tab, account tab, and support. And then here we just have a couple other settings too, just more like for you and your computer and all of that as well. I mostly never touch these. Maybe you contact support, but I would mostly contact support in terms of like your files aren't going to get downloaded, or like there's just something wrong on their websites or bugs on that side. Maybe you can't get into your account. That's kind of what the support button's there. But if it's something for in-game, there's actually like a whole other in-game support tab that I'll probably show you later in this video. If not, definitely comment down below and I'll definitely tell you, because it's like super vital. So yeah, so this is where you're going to want to put in like your username and your passwords and all of that jazz. So go ahead and do that right now. And then once you've logged in using your username and password, you're going to be met with this screen. So this is the server selection screen. So here there's actually a play and a transfer button. The transfer button is just if you have like characters. Sometimes there's character and world transfers that happen. This specifically became a thing once some of the servers got shut down, so that's sort of why they have that. But as you can see here, there are like available worlds. If they're not available, it'll say that they're down and then they'll be highlighted red. That typically just means that they have maintenance, and then essentially you're gonna have to wait until they're done with the maintenance and then you can go play the game. But here all the servers are up, everything's fine. If you need some ideas on which servers to join, I definitely recommend that you check out my server video, which I'll have linked down below as well. I kind of go through which US servers you want to go through, so unfortunately if you're based over in Europe and all that, I didn't cover those servers though. I do recommend that you check out the forums too. There's a lot of Lotro forums, which I'm sure you can access within the community panel up here. But just for this sake, I'm just gonna go ahead and play in Gladden because I have absolutely no characters in Gladden right now, so you're going to get like the full experience if you have no characters available and what that process will look like. So go ahead, hit play, and we'll see the whole cinematics. So here we are, and as you can see, you're immediately welcomed into the character creation screen. I'm gonna back it up just a little bit, but for whatever reason, if you need to adjust your settings like right away, because you know, I play games, I know when I immediately get it and I'm like, oh my god, my sensitivity is a mess, oh my god, the music's too loud, you can actually go back to exit creation, and then just hit yes, and then you'll get to like the main character selection screen. But here, that's where you could go ahead and hit options. You can even access the Lotro store as well, though I don't see why you would need to do that right now. And then you'll also see that Monster Play is grayed out for the time, but that's something that will get introduced to us at a later date. And then you can also go through like some of the credits in the movie library. There's nothing really for you to look at, but those will be important options to kind of talk about in the future. But anyway, once you've gone through your settings, you can actually adjust some of the settings. It doesn't have all of the settings open and available to you as of yet. You have to access most of those when you're actually in the game, but for the most part, you can at least adjust your volume and stuff like that. And then when you're done with that, you can go back to new character, and then you can start the creation process for your character. So here, there's actually a lot of different characters, and this is a free-to-play account, may I add. I have not put any money into this account. I do have a different account that I play on for stream and stuff that isn't free to play, but for this purpose of this video, I'm using a free to play account. So you have a really big selection of classes and races that you could play. One of the biggest questions I get asked is which race works best with which class? And essentially the way that you're gonna figure this out is if you go through the races, there's actually these like abilities that you can read through. You can learn a little bit more about the history of the race that you want to choose. But if you hover over these, it's actually going to show you like some characteristics that they automatically have, and that can actually help depending on what class you choose. So here, men have plus 15 might just automatically. So for that reason, you could easily go to someone who has their main stat set as might. So for example, that would be like your champions, your guardians, definitely like a brawler, Bjorning. Might is essentially like your go-to for those classes. So that might be a useful tool for you. And then depending on your race, you can actually have some characteristics that are going to hurt you. So in this case, hobbits have this thing called small size, which means that they are going to have less might. So if I wanted to make a hobbit guardian, I'd actually be limited. It's not too limiting though. It's not like you can't be like, oh, okay, well, I can't make a guardian hobbit. Like, it's still possible. It just means that you're going to be at a slight disadvantage in comparison to like man race. That's just something to kind of keep an eye out for. I'm going to have a whole video kind of going over more of this in the future. And I'll also have another class breakdown that I recommend that you check out as well. But just to go back into the character creation, you actually have almost everything available, which is really huge. And I greatly appreciate Standing Stone for doing this, because there used to be a lot more limitations, but it's actually gotten a lot better over the years. And so therefore you're not really like limited. The only thing that you're limited to is Stout Axe, which actually came out like a couple of years back. So that's kind of why it's locked. And then Brawler was the latest class that's come out, and they're locked as well, and you'll have to put down some Lotro points for them, though everything else is available. So real quick too, because my face cam is kind of covering it, but you can actually see some of the class difficulties. So here, Captain is considered moderate, and their role is mostly for support, and then you can actually read a lot more about the gameplay and such, and then you can kind of circle through like some of the classes and see like which class you might want to try for. I actually don't recommend doing Lore Master, and I don't recommend Warden. They seem like the two most difficult, but some of the more advanced classes you can probably get away with in a later date. So I'm going to choose to make a high elf captain just for the purpose of this video. So if you go ahead and you hit continue, that's where you can do all the character customizations. And actually you could change your origin, which you can read more about with the lore, and it'll actually give you a couple of like name ideas for your origin as well. So if you need some guidance on that, it's all here for you. One other thing I want to say real quick is that this is currently what the customization looks like, but I've actually got word that there's probably going to be a lot more, like I mean a lot more customization options in the near future. So if you don't feel like there's enough customizations yet, I guarantee you there's going to be a lot more hairstyles and a lot more customization features that have barely even been touched on. So I'm going to go ahead and just quickly go through and make my character. And there we have it. This is the look. One other thing I want to point out is the starting tutorial. You could actually change this depending if you're a VIP or not, or depending on what expansion you have. So you can't skip the tutorial for first time players. I mean, obviously they want you to learn the game, but you can have that option. The more advanced you get with the game and all that, you'll get that on your next character that you create. You could skip. But for this time, it's going to be Shadows of Angmar. This is like the original tutorial that they put in place. And before the Shadow, that's actually a new expansion that just came out. So if you do have that expansion and you paid for that, then you could always start with that tutorial phase. There's really not much difference between the two of them. I mean, it's just a tutorial. It's not that too crazy, but it just depends on where you're going to start off at in the world. And quite frankly, Shadows of Angmar, it's like the original. I would always just stick with that one. But if you want to, you're more than welcome to do the Before the Shadow. All right, so once you've actually hit create your character and you've established what you want, then you're going to get back to the main screen, your character selection screen. As of right now, for free-to-play accounts, there are only 2 character slots, so choose wisely, though it is super easy that once you start playing the game and all that, it's actually really easy to get Lotro points, and with Lotro points, you can actually get more character slots, so if you grind just a little bit, I guarantee you're gonna get more slots available. All right, so I'm set on my character, and then the best part of everything is let's enter Middle Earth, guys. Let's go. All right, everyone, so here we are. You could tell that this is pretty intense for a situation, and you might feel a little overwhelmed, but I'm going to point out a couple of key things about your user interface. The first thing I want to note is that on the top left, this is you. This is your character, and then this is your health bar and your power bar. If your health or power bar does not look like mine, I mean, my level has actually been increased to 110 right now, so you'll probably have a lot less than me. Don't freak out if yours is only like a couple hundred. It's okay. Another thing to mention too is that if you chose a Bjorning, you're actually not going to have a power bar. You're going to have this thing called Wrath, and that will start you off at 0, and then essentially as you start clicking on skills, you're going to build up your Wrath over time, and then that Wrath is what can make you go into bear form and then use some of the skills in bear form. Another thing I want to note is that you're going to see underneath your power bar or Wrath bar that there are going to be like some buffs or debuffs for your character under this section as well. And then as you can see here, there's going to have a couple of different tutorials that pop up, and everyone will get a daily login reward, which you can click on your bottom right of your corner is a little Hobbit present is what they're called. So we'll click on this, and then these are like the Hobbit gifts, and you get one for free every day. So here I got a couple of copper scraps, nothing too crazy, but now it's triggering all these different inventory things as well. So just kind of keep that in mind. You can always read through these and check these out. And then down below here, you can see that we have our chat bar. So this is like the world chat right now. You can see everything that everyone is saying. Someone wants to do some high level missions, totally cool. Then you have your combat tab. So once you start fighting, you're gonna see like all of the numbers and all of that you're taking off of people and all of that. And then IMs is mostly for like your individual people that you might be in a fellowship with, in groups. You can DM them essentially. And then on the bottom here, there's a lot, and I'm not going to cover everything right now. Just know that your main important stuff will be on your left side. This grayed out one is going to be super important, and you can't do it right away, but these are all of your traits and your virtues, which is really important for stats, and I'll explain that at a later time, but this will be a critical thing you want to click on. Then down here you have the character panel. That's just to bring up what your character looks like. You can select titles, you can change out your armor, and you can also do cosmetic outfits as well, but this is also where you'll want to see all of your stats, and I actually recommend that you leave the show all stats checked. If it's not already checked, make sure to check it, because this will be super important for you in the future to kind of learn more about your character stats. And then while you're in the character panel, there's actually more options for you as well, so you can kind of go through your skills that you have available, which right now there's currently not many, but you can see your active skills that we have available, which are on the bottom bar. You can also see your passive skills, so you can see what kind of armor that your character allows for, and then you can also see like what types of weapons that you can yield. So there's probably even more depending on what class you are and race. You might have more passive abilities. And then mounts and fellowship, you'll kind of get to at a later point, but that's an important thing to kind of mention. Everything else here, it can wait for the moment, for the time being. There is a wallet tab that you can access on your character panel, or you can access it up here. It's a little toggle wallet button here, but then that way you can see like how much money you have, and we're broke as heck. So we need some loot. So up here is the map. You can actually see like your time of day over on this panel. Your toggle wallet is here on this button. You have like your collections and your world maps that are available here too, and then you can also see like your hope or fear meter, which is kind of important once you get in like darker situations to kind of see like how much dread is actually on you, because that can affect your health. And then also what I have here is that the quest bar is kind of overlapping my quest logs. It's overlapping with my map right now, but you can see on the flashing here, the map actually has like the location where we're at. And then what my face is covering up, there's actually at the bottom right, you're probably going to have an alert. It kind of looks like a scroll with an explanation. So here's an alert, and it says I have a title awarded, which you always get your basic title, which just explains your heritage. So kind of doing like a whole user interface tutorial. I would actually kind of go through and just make sure like what my skill types are, just in case. So here I have like a health and then a couple of pretty good damage skills. So a couple of buffs with those two. So I definitely recommend that you take some time real quick before you start anything to go through, look at your skills, make sure you know which skill does what. Read through them. Trust me, reading your skill is very vital. And then when you're ready, you go ahead and you would click on the person who has a ring over their head. This flaming ring typically is for like your story quest, your main quest. So this is an important quest I want to pick up. So maybe she can explain what's happening in this situation. So I right clicked on this NPC, and then I have the quest log for this specific quest pop up. I encourage you to read the quests. I'm someone who always click through them, and quite frankly, there's actually a lot of just lore and little cute like knowledge within these. So I do recommend you go through and read these, and then it'll tell you your next objective. If you need to change like your font size, feel free to increase or decrease using these two arrows here as well. And then also one more thing to note is that when I clicked on her, when I right clicked on her, I actually had her morale and power bar show up, and then I can also see her buffs and debuffs. So here she has a really good one that she's literally immune to being knocked out, and she has no fear. Oh my god. So she's cool as heck, great sidekick. But yeah, so you could definitely click on different NPCs or people who can actually do some combat. You could see like what their bar is and then where they're at percentage wise and all that too. If you have this bug like me where my map is actually overdoing the quest log and I can't read my quests, you can actually do control and backslash, and then that will trigger like your whole user interface, so you can kind of go ahead and fix anything around that you'd like. And then you just do control backslash again to clear that user interface area. And then worst case, if you wanted to increase the size of things, I would recommend that you hit escape. And then from here you have another button of options that you could do. Help is actually going to be that contacting support that you need to get to in order for like certain game functions if quests aren't working. This is where you want to go, and then you'll want to go into like your tickets and keep an eye out for it. But to go ahead and change the user interface size and such, you can go to options, and then this is where you'll have all the other options available to you now that we're in game. And you want to go to UI settings to kind of customize and work with some of that, and to make sure that you could change some of those sizes if you need that. All right, you should have enough knowledge now that you should be able to get through the gameplay and at least survive getting through your tutorial. I do have a few last minute remarks that I'm going to make at the end of this video, so stay tuned and let's just cut right to it. So the one thing that is different about your high elf, your stout axe, and I believe your Bjornings is the fact that they actually have these instances that they go through, and I believe that they all, maybe minus Bjorning, will actually end up going into Middle Earth. You don't have to do the tutorial aspect of it, which if you're a man, a hobbit, regular dwarf, or an elf, a regular elf, then yeah, you're gonna actually have to go to like Archet or be in this phase of Ered Luin where you'll be going around doing quests and essentially just trying to get to like another height in the story that then will unleash you into Middle Earth. But here we are, we're actually here in Middle Earth. We are in Keladim right now. As a high elf, I just kind of got taken here. So that's essentially part of the story. There's a lot of other like trinkets I really want to show you all and all of that, but main important thing here in this video was just to at least show you and guide you through like the beginning steps. Now you've pretty much got an idea through the tutorial, so you are essentially ready to go. If you do want a follow-up video though, let me know down in the comments down below. I have a couple of other things I'd like to touch on. I could actually go through an entire video just on like the user interface and what all the icons mean, but some of it's a little self-explanatory, so I don't want to be too redundant for you all, but let me know in the comments what you think. I appreciate you all for being here, and as always, until next time, stay weird, weirdos.